Rob, what is our fifth main topic today?
John, our fifth main topic comes from Fefe. Hey, gang. Today I woke up to the news that Legendary has signed a distribution contract with Sony, moving away from Warner Brothers. This was a possibility under the old regime, but I thought that David Zaslav worked his magic to retain them as partners. While Dune Part 2 will be distributed by Warner Brothers still, what does this mean for the studio moving forward? Thanks, and have a great one.
All right, thanks a lot for writing that in, Fefe. Yeah, this news broke shortly after the John Campea Show ended yesterday. And listen, I know it's talking about the inside baseball stuff is not the sexiest thing in the world. This is seismic. This is huge. Legendary has made some of the biggest box office hits, some of the most popular movies over the last decade or so. And they have been staunchly, at Warner Brothers. They went over to Universal for a spell, went back to Warner Brothers. They did Kong versus Godzilla. They did Dune, all that kind of stuff. And now they have pulled up the stakes and they have moved over to Sony from Warner Brothers. Now, this is not surprising. This is the stupidest move, I think, in Hollywood executive history when Jason Kilar, then head of Warner Brothers, decided to pull a fast one on everybody and just announce, without consulting anybody, that they were going to take all their movies in 2021 and throw them all on HBO Max, which more than anybody else came as a big surprise to Legendary Pictures, who financed all the big things and had deals with them and were given no heads up. That day, that is the day. It wasn't yesterday when the announcement came out. That was the day that the bridge between Legendary and Warner Brothers was burned, and burned permanently. And you knew they weren't going to come back after that. Now, with David Zaslav and a new ownership coming in over Warner Brothers, I think you were on the show that day. I said, it's going to be a really key moment here. Zaslav's got to be able to pull out some magic here and show that you can be the one to rebuild that bridge. You got to be the one to keep them in the stable. And we knew it was going to be a tall order. He wasn't able to do it. And they've pulled up stakes and they've now moved over. This comes to us from the folks over at the Hollywood Reporter who said the following. The Legendary deal, Legendary was the lead producer on two of the biggest hits of the pandemic, Dune and Godzilla vs. Kong. But the relationship with Warner Brothers grew strained when former Warner Media chief Jason Kilar didn't loop in Legendary when they abruptly announcing it was sending all of its 2021 theatrical titles simultaneously to HBO Max. Sony's commitment to theatrical distribution aligns with our vision of how to best derive the most value for Legendary's movies, said Legendary CEO Joshua Grode. The incredible slate of movies that Mary Patton has amassed are built for the theatrical experience, and we are excited about our partnership with Sony for this next phase of Legendary's growth. We are also grateful to Warner Brothers Pictures, who has been a valuable partner to Legendary over many years, and we look forward to continuing our work with the talented executives at Warner and Discovery. So it's done. And the very nice statement saying, but there's something in there that was really key. And that was, we love Sony because they are dedicated to the theatrical experience. Rob, we were at CinemaCon this year when the head of Sony Pictures got up and they boasted, hey guys, we are about theaters. That's our movies. We make our movies for movie theaters while everybody else is trying to figure out, can we just make them for streaming and all this kind of stuff. Now, I talked to a senior person at another studio this morning, at least I text messaged with them. And their perspective on this is, from what they heard, the defining thing, because apparently Warner Brothers made a big push to try to keep Legendary, but that the defining breaking point was simply this: Sony doesn't have a streaming platform. And they simply did not feel safe going with either Warner Brothers, who still, even under Zaslav, they have a big priority with HBO Max, as they should, or another outlet that did. Legendary is not about that. They want to make sure that whatever partner they were going to have was laser focused on the theatrical distribution of these films and how to best get them out to their audiences. And for them, apparently, Sony not even having their own streaming platform was a huge selling point for them. So again, either way, it's unfortunate that Zaslav was not able to rebuild that bridge that Kilar burned. But from Legendary's point of view, I can see, and I'll tell you what, this is a huge win for Sony. Massive. This is a big, big win for Sony. We want to thank a sponsor of today's episode, Stamps.com. Guys, it happens every holiday season. No matter how prepared we think we are for the season, it always turns out we're nowhere near as prepared as we thought we were, especially with our shipping. And right about now, seasonal excitement, or dread as the case may be, is really starting to settle in, especially for small businesses. Slaying through traffic to the post office, inboxes more like a blizzard than a winter wonderland, rushing to send cards and gifts to your loyal clients. The good news is it's not too late to get your holiday mailing and shipping under control with Stamps.com. Sign up now and you'll be printing your own postage in minutes. Because Stamps.com is your one-stop shop for all of your shipping and mailing needs. Get access to the United States Postal Service and UPS services that you need to run your business right from your computer. Up to 86% off. So this holiday season, trade late nights for silent nights and get started with Stamps.com today. Sign up with promo code Campea for a special offer that includes a 4-week trial plus free postage and a free digital scale. No long-term commitments or contracts. Just go to Stamps.com, click the microphone at the top of the page, and enter the code Campea. Christian, you've been following this very closely. We've talked about this before. What's your takeaway from this?
The take is that Mary Parent was very smart in how she played this from the get-go when she started having the conversations. That's probably ultimately, if you go and have these conversations, you'll probably find out it was those initial conversations. I agree thoroughly that because they were so pissed off of the way that that was handled right away, they're like, screw this. Once we're
lawsuits were brought up.
Yeah. And they're like, screw this. Once we're out, we're out. And while the leadership was still not changed, and then they started getting on phone calls, making the preliminary calls, probably got into really nice phone calls with Mary a bunch of different times, who then they started to form this relationship throughout it. Then Zaslav might have just come in too late, because when he comes in, they're like, okay, yeah, this guy's not bad, but we really got a good thing now going with Mary. And she's really set this up. We've been talking to her now for 6 months, 7 months, and she's saying the right things. And as you said, they don't have a streaming platform, and we don't have to risk this. My question is, I know that they said Dune 2 is going to be released by Warner Brothers. So what about the TV show? Because the TV show, that's still HBO Max?
It's HBO Max.
Okay, so anything Dune related is HBO.
So all the properties they've already started with Warner Brothers, those licenses, those agreements,
which
still
makes
Godzilla versus Kong,
all
Dune,
makes sense.
will still be Warner Brothers.
But it's a question now of the stuff that they produce in the future. This is something that Sony needed. It's something that Paramount should have gotten to the game, or Universal should have gotten. To the game,
I agree.
because of the streaming. But either way, Sony, massive win for Sony. This is going to be really big for them. Legendary has proven over the course of the last 15, 20 years to be a real player. So, but it's not to say that one day Sony's not going to create a streaming service. They might not have one now, but
or acquire a pre-existing one.
100%. But as of right now, I see the move. But I do think that everyone talks about Zaslav. Everybody talks about Iger. Mary Parent made a big move here.
Yeah,
massive move, and she should start being in that conversation with, like, this is what a really good executive does. Start laying the groundwork. This was not something that just, oh, hey, why don't you come hang out with us? She's been working on this deal for a while, and she got it done.
Rob, when you're talking about Legendary now, this is kind of a double win for them, because while they get to now go to a new house that has makes them a higher priority, they still get to make their Dune movies and their Godzilla movies and stuff like that with Warner. It's a good day for them, but like Christian was saying, huge day for Sony, a studio that's done pretty well since the pandemic sort of started. Them and Paramount have kind of really made names for themselves. You're right. Her name's got to be up there now. What's your takeaway from this?
Well, the thing that people have to remember, Legendary brings money.
A lot of money.
They're a co-financing company here. So they're not just, when they say co-producers, what they really mean is they're paying for these movies.
And they're a full production house now, too.
They are. But I mean, if you look at places like Paramount has, when Larry Ellison gave his kids money, he gave David Ellison and Megan Ellison money. Megan Ellison formed Annapurna. David Ellison formed Skydance. And if you look at Skydance, is basically the de facto production company for Paramount's movies. Top Gun, Mission Impossible, Star Trek. It's always Skydance. Sony just has a nice producing partner now that has deep ties into the Chinese market, because Legendary has carved out distribution for themselves in the Chinese market.
And deep pockets.
Deep pockets. So what Sony has got, and Sony, they're committed to the theatrical experience and then exploiting. They've got PlayStation 5. You make your video games, you do all these things, and they've got access now. If Legendary wants to make PlayStation Red Dead Redemption movie, brought to you by Legendary, whatever the hell they want to do. I mean, it's an incredible move. And now Warner Brothers does not have that producing partner. And those movies that Legendary produced. I mean, I was working with those guys when John Jashney and Thomas Tull started the company back on Superman Returns, back when they were going to have a sword for their logo. This was much better. They were a great company, and losing that money means Warner Brothers then now has to find that money to make their DC movies, because Legendary was producing all of the DC EU films, I think, for the most part, Pacific Rim, the Monsterverse, all of these very big budget tentpole movies. Legendary was like, where are they going to get that money now? So Warner Brothers, I mean, I'm sure Warner Brothers knew this was coming, so they figured out ways. And of course, Zaslav's probably figured out ways to finance.
He
these
knew
films.
it was probably a long shot.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
But still, Sony's like you said, Mary Parent's like, well, let's get started, boys. What are we going to make?
Rob, you touched on something that I think could be maybe the most exciting thing for them, because Christian, one of the things Rob was saying about, and we've overlooked this, they now have their own division at Sony for making their PlayStation games into movies, into TV shows. And now you've got a partner like Legendary that can get behind things like, I mean, a God of War thing is all, but a God of War or these other properties that they have. Now all of a sudden, these projects can have Legendary behind them. I mean, how significant is that for that whole subdivision?
Massive. And they might not have streaming, a streaming service, but they're still making stuff for Netflix, and they're still making other things too that they could.
You just said it.
Yeah.
They can make They can make stuff for everybody.
They can make stuff for everybody. So that's the thing, and that's probably another reason. Not just because of theatrical, they're not beholden to one specific platform. They can sell it to wherever they want to go now, make shows, make stuff throughout the video games, do whatever they want to do, and have the budgets that Rob was just talking about. But it's absolutely, they have this catalog of stuff from the past and the future, and the stuff that's coming up now, the future, and this is one of the biggest wins for Sony and for Mary Parent thus far.
And for Legendary, I was going to say for Legendary 2, because you brought it up, I want to touch on it here. For Legendary 2, I think Legendary is probably looking at that Sony deal and they're saying, Legendary Pictures presents Red Dead Redemption movie? I mean, they got to be salivating at opportunities.
She's probably
like that
been pitching this stuff since the beginning of these conversations.
You're probably right. Yeah.
It's like, it's thinking about on the conversation that she's having with them to say, look, I understand you're unhappy. These are the things that we think Sony can bring to you. We have this available. You'll be able to do this. This is stuff that was being set up throughout, because they're going to have this contemplation. If you're sitting down, you have a business, and you're like, all right, Warner Brothers wants to keep us. Other places have some pitches, but Sony's really got the sweet deal. What's Sony offering? She's been pitching stuff for them to have for months.
Yeah.
For months. That's why they left, because what she has been, she knew this is a massive deal for her. Sweeten the pot, do what you can do, show everything that you have, and deliver. And they're going to. What does it mean for Spider-Man? Are they gonna have
that's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
I mean, Legendary is like, hey, guess what, Disney?
Oh my God. Can you imagine Legendary getting involved with Spider-Man stuff?
I mean,
and
why
Marvel.
wouldn't they?
And Marvel.
They're going to co-produce Legendary. I bet you $1 million that they're going to co-produce the next Spider-Man.
Yeah, what's Kevin Feige going right now? Hey, let me talk to Legendary. You know what
I mean,
It's like,
because Disney, like, hey, we lost $4 billion on streaming.
Yeah.
We don't have, bar banks. Our positions changed a little bit. Legendary's like, hey, guess what we want to have? You know what we've been doing for the last 15 years? Producing superhero movies.
But even beyond Spider-Man, now you're talking about the Spider-Man connected universe too.
Right.
Like the stuff like Kraven, whatever. The other characters you want to bring, now you put Legendary on those.
It's just a massive deal.
Is this huge? Again, I understand. For a lot of film fans, we care about who are the actors, but believe me, this is potentially very exciting.
And also, Legendary can go to the Chinese market and guarantee releases.
Yeah, they've got a lot more ins there too. All right, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? Legendary has jumped ship. They've gone over. I mean, just like a bad STD, the Jason Kilar just keeps giving and ruining things for you a year later. But Legendary has left Warner Brothers now. They've landed at Sony. I think Christian's right. This is a huge, huge deal for Sony. How do you guys think about this? Whatever your thoughts are, jump down to the comment section below and leave those thoughts there.